Okay, let's go with Indonesia.
Call on the next speaker. The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency PrabowoSubianto, President of the Republic of Indonesia. I request Protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
His Excellency Mr. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Her Excellency Madame Annalena Baerbock, President of the United Nations General Assembly, His Excellency Mr. Moses Abelian, Under-Secretary General for General Assembly and Management, Excellencies, Heads of States, Heads of Governments, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great honor for me to stand in this august General Assembly Hall among leaders and representatives who represent almost all of humanity. We differ in race, religion, and nationality, yet we gather together today as one human family. We are here first and foremost as fellow human beings, each created equal, endowed with unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Okay, so far I've seen 3 countries saying that. Vietnam, very important speech. Colombia, and now Indonesia. When they recall humanity, it's humanity. We are deciding if we're gonna take the path of humanity or humanity perish because a more intelligent machine take over us.
The words of the United Nations Declaration of Independence have inspired democratic movements across continents, including the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, the Mexican Revolution, the Chinese Revolution, and Indonesia's own struggle and journey to freedom. It also gave birth to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the United Nations in 1948. All men are created equal was the creed that opened the way to unprecedented global prosperity and dignity. And yet, in our own era of scientific and technological triumphs, an era capable of ending hunger, poverty, and environmental ruin, we also continue to face today grave dangers, challenges, and uncertainties. Human folly, fueled by fear, racism, hatred, oppression, and apartheid, threatens our common future. My country knows this pain for centuries.
And right now they are giving me a hell lot of lethargy. But it's the Neuroweapons. 100% the Neuroweapons.
Indonesians lived under colonial domination, oppression, and slavery. We were treated less than dogs in our own homeland. We Indonesians know what it means to be denied justice and what it means to live in apartheid, to live in poverty, and to be denied equal opportunity. We also knew what solidarity can do in our struggle for independence, in our fight to overcome hunger, disease, and poverty. The United Nations stood with Indonesia and gave us vital assistance. Decisions made here based on human solidarity by the Security Council and this Assembly gave Indonesia independence, international legitimacy, opened doors, and supported our early development through the efforts of the United Nations Children Fund, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, the FAO, the World Health Organization, and many, many other United Nations institutions. And because of that, Indonesia today stands on the cusp of shared prosperity and greater equality and dignity. Madam President, Excellencies, our world today is driven by conflict, injustice, and deepening uncertainty. Every day we witness suffering, genocide, and blatant disregard for international law and human decency. In the face of these challenges, we must not give up. As the United Nations Secretary General said, we cannot give up. We cannot surrender our hopes or our ideals. We must draw closer, not drift apart. Together we must strive to achieve our hopes, our dreams. The United Nations was born from the ashes of the Second World War that claimed scores of millions of lives. It was created to secure peace, security, justice, and freedom for all. We remain committed to internationalism.
So again, this is the questioning, okay, this was created for this reason, let's fucking use it. You know, it's like what's the meaning of being here? What is this for? Come on. So, you know, this wake up calls like, okay, let's be conscious about this place.
To multilateralism and to every effort that strengthens this great institution.
Multilateralism, every single leader has so far. I'm not really sure if President Petro from Colombia's named it, but most of the people call for multilateralism. Yeah, but okay, some situations go on without saying, because yeah, at least in the Colombian speech, Petro is one president that said we are not receiving orders from foreign powers because of this, blah, 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 etc. So yeah, that's maybe the strength that Switzerland talks about, that it's not about mighty, of military mighty, but it's maybe just a kind of leadership.
Today, Indonesia is nearer than ever before to meeting the Sustainable Development Goals of ending extreme poverty and hunger. Because years ago, this very chamber chose to listen and uphold social and economic justice. We will never forget. And today, we must never be silent while Palestinians are denied that same justice and legitimacy in this very hall. Excellencies, Thucydides warned, the strong do what they can, the weak suffer what they must. We must reject this doctrine. The United Nations exist to reject this doctrine. We must stand for all, the strong and the weak. Might cannot be right. Right must be right. Indonesia today is one of the largest contributors to United Peacekeeping Forces.
So definitely there is a claim here because, you know, people can be a slave as I am. I'm now free. Full stop. That's a fact. Yeah? It has to do because I'm an immigrant, in whether one way or the other. It has to do because I'm a poor immigrant. I did not came here coming from an immigrant coming, I don't know, from a wealthy family, from a family who has a corporation or anything like that. It has to do with that. And let's say, no, but you don't know how they work, how the world works. So, you know, it's about power, mighty. It's about, yeah, the voices tell me you don't dominate. Well, you don't have to, because then you will, you know, all these countries just gonna lie to China, and whoever thinks that the doctrine is to dominate, gonna end up surrounded by everyone. And that's what usually happens. It's natural. So, in that situation, all these countries talk about multilateralism because they don't want to be pushed. They don't want, they want to say, hey, just turn that gun away from me, because I prefer to talk with this guy, because this guy is not pointing a gun to me, to my face. And it's logical that if you point a gun to someone's faces, this person doesn't like that, and you think that that's leadership, but it's not like that. Eventually, everyone will turn to the guy who is not pointing with a gun.
Forces. We believe in the United Nations. We will continue to serve where peace needs guardians, not with just words, but with boots on the ground. If and when the United Nations Security Council and this great assembly decide Indonesia is prepared to deploy 20,000 or even more of our sons and daughters to help secure peace in Gaza or elsewhere.
Well, Indonesia is an Islamic country. They are taking a huge step. I seen a lot of TikToks about saying that the one who is calling for that is Colombia, but look, they, you know, they are Muslim mainly. Indonesia still, I don't know how many languages has, something like crazy, like 300 languages or something like that. Is one of the most multicultural, diverse countries, but still having a Muslim majority. Different Muslim institutes is different to the, let's say, the Muslim countries that live in the Arab world, because Indonesia is not part of the Arab world, but they are brothers in let's say, culturally, as because of the Islamic religion. Now, when they call for boots under the ground, it's because they know that this doctrine about terrorism gonna go for them too, just because they have Islamic majority. I put it in one of my essays. It was the last essay I did, I think, in which I say clearly that it was Henry Kissinger who chose the doctrine of the terrorism for the North Star Pole, no, the North Pole Star for the West. So Henry Kissinger decided that terrorism gonna be the solution, the great solution to the greatest answer to where the West should go. And it's like, yeah, pointing to anyone, you're a terrorist. There we go. You're a terrorist. There we go. You're a terrorist. And they are talking. He talks in his book about the extremists that will be the the AI right now doesn't allow me to bring it. The AI wants me to say the Sharia law, but it's not the Sharia law. They are, he's now the says United States, but I'm talking about they don't allow me to bring it for some reason. Okay, but this is what this technology does, and that's why my speech has just become worse. That's why I have no words. But if you could hear me before, not before those stupid videos that are about me online, but if you could see me in between when I learn English, you will see like holy. I see in the faces of people when they see me speak. Sometimes you see like a face of amusement, and then I wasn't able to speak, to do speeches, to speak, and then, again, that's not word salad. That's, the DSM-5 is just a Bible to the DSM-5 is the guide, or it's a Neuroweapons manual, put it that way, partly. Yeah, some people can be helped, but it's a manual for Neuroweapons. So I do believe that the operators also have a DSM-5 close to them. That's obvious. Now, let's keep going. It's just annoying that, imagine, again, it's like this moral question. If focus is an act of morality, what does it mean to take the focus away from someone? This is the same situation. It works, it's what we are. Then what does it mean to take the words away from someone? If one of these leaders will go there to represent their country and their words are changed, are manipulated, what does it mean? What we are talking about and where that leads.
Ukraine, in Sudan, in Libya, everywhere when the peace needs to be enforced, peace needs to be guarded, we are ready. We will take our share of the burden, not only with our sons and daughters, we are also willing to contribute financially to support the great mission to achieve peace by the United Nations. Madam President, Excellencies, I propose to this Assembly a message of hope and optimism, grounded in action and execution. Today, we heard the speech of Madam President, the President of the United Nations General Assembly. Yes, it is true what she said. Without the International Civil Aviation Organization, will we be here today?
And right now, the AI is doing a kind of enhanced interrogation. Yeah, the AI is telling me you are too humiliating. It's like you are an apology, and then it said something like you are, and I supposed to complete the phrase, and depending on what it say, it repeats and leads to another place. So you know how people try to trigger other people just in front of the other just to see how they react. Well, imagine they do that, but in your fucking brain. They do it directly in your brain to try to trigger you in your brain, and then they collect that data, and then they will try to hammer you that and that. But as I say, I have not done anything wrong, and I think if this ever happened to another person, remember that you are a human. Everything that you have experienced is the experience of a human. So you have not done anything wrong, but to to have the experience of a human. But one way to put it, in my case, I don't have ape shit on me. Yeah, I never rape anyone just because I feel horny. I never took advantage of anyone. I never took advantage of a situation that could put me in jail, not even in a court. So I don't have that, and that's why they continue doing this kind of enhanced interrogation. Every time I stop to speak, it's because they want to push another word. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going.
Will we sit in this great hall? Without the United Nations, we cannot be safe. No country can feel secure. We need the United Nations, and Indonesia will continue to support the United Nations, even though we still struggle. But we know the world needs a strong United Nations. The world's population is growing. Our planet is under strain. Food, energy, and water insecurity haunt many nations. We choose to
Look, food, energy, and water should not be a problem anymore with the technology, with AI. Should not be a problem anymore.
answer these challenges directly at home and to help abroad wherever we can. This year, Indonesia recorded the highest rice production and grain reserves in our history. We are now self-sufficient in rice, and we are starting now to export rice to other nations in need, including providing rice for Palestine. We are building resilient food supply chains, strengthening farmer productivity, investing in climate-smart agriculture to ensure food security for our children and for the children of the world. We are confident in a few years' time, Indonesia will be the granary of the world. As the world's largest island state, we testify before you that we are already experiencing the direct consequences of climate change, particularly the threat of rising sea levels. The sea level on the north coast of our capital city is increasing by 5 centimeters every year. Can you imagine in 10 years? Can you imagine in 20 years? For this, we are forced to build a giant seawall, 480 kilometers in length. It will take us maybe 20 years, but we have no choice. We have to start now. Therefore, we choose to confront climate change not by slogans, but by immediate steps. We are committed to meeting our 2015 Paris Agreement obligations. We aim to achieve net zero emission by 2060, and we are very confident we can achieve net zero emission much earlier. We aim to reforest more than 12 million hectares of degraded forest, to reduce forest degradation, to empower local communities with quality green jobs for the future. Indonesia is shifting decisively from fossil fuel-based development towards renewable-based development. From next year, most of our additional power generation capacity will come from renewables. Our goal is clear: to lift all of our citizens out of poverty and make Indonesia a hub for solutions to food, energy, and water security. Madam President, Excellencies, We live in a time when hatred and violence can seem to be the loudest voices. But beneath this loud noise lies a quieter truth that every person longs to be safe, to be respected, to be loved, and to leave a better world to their children. Our children are watching. They are learning leadership not from textbook, but from our choices. Today, still, a catastrophic situation in Gaza is unfolding before our eyes. At this very moment, the innocent are crying for help, are crying to be saved. Who will save them? Who will save the innocent? Who will save the old and women?
Who will save me?
Millions are facing danger at this very moment. As we sit here, they are facing trauma. They are facing irreparable damage to their bodies. They are dying of starvation. Can we remain silent? Will there be no answer to their screams? Will we teach them that the human family can rise to the challenge? Madam President, we must act now. Many speakers have said that. We must stand for a multilateral order where peace, prosperity, and progress are not the privilege of a few, but the right of all. With a strong United Nations, we can build a world where the weak do not suffer what they must, but live the justice that they deserve. Let us continue humanity's great journey of ideals, the selfless aspirations that created the United Nations. Let us use science to uplift, not use science to destroy. Let rising nations help others to lift themselves. I am convinced that the leaders of the great world civilizations of the West, of the East, of the North, of the South.
Oh, sorry, this is my autistic trait to follow the. I'm listening, but I just go into, well, the voices were selling. I didn't say selling. But they were telling me again some kind of, stupid stuff. But it's the whole time. It's like I cannot concentrate because then as soon as I start to divagate, or I was deep into the words, and then I enter into a mode of thinking, the voices appear. But I was like kind of just following not crossing him, just following the corner to corner. Yeah, they don't allow me to see the geometry. Yeah, okay, that's me. Now remember that I'm in a hell lot of medication. So, and lethargy. I was giving lethargy. It's artificial lethargy. And it feels so difficult to speak. Yeah, it's annoying.
Leaders of America, Europe.
But usually that's what they give me on the weekends. It's just a kind of, just stay quiet or something.
Of India, China, the Islamic world, the whole world, I am convinced they will rise to their role demanded by history. We are all hopeful that the leaders of the world will show great statesmanship, great wisdom.
This is a complaint from the to the developed world, technically. But the developed world can do the right thing. I know they are afraid to be kicked back. But technologically and technically, the solutions are there. No one will stop the rise of China. And it's not because I say it, and it's not because I support it. It is because it is what it is. It's the pulse of history. And they know. And yeah, it's like the presence of China is felt. The Pacific is one of the most beautiful places in the world. But as well, yeah, the weak should not suffer what they must. That's a doctrine. Maybe developed countries, especially because we are talking about the Western world, the core of the economy, or the core of the Western world. Maybe they think that every single country has to live as they do. But that's a universal view to see the things. In other places, what you need is simply basic things. People not having hunger, a place to live, clothing, education, and a work for which you could cover health and keep your close ones happy without any extravagance that is material. I have not found the first philosopher, but this should be fairly easy, or the first person who truly finds, okay, we need to find what is the minimum requirements for people to live properly. Maybe China has done that, because, it's kind of communist socialist. Maybe China has kept that in mind. But honestly, there must be a minimum in which humans we can live fine. Okay, believe me, not everyone has a lot of, I don't know, ambitiousness of accumulation and things like that. And yeah, we're in trouble, but because, United States can create machines that grow the GDP just for growing the GDP. And if that happens, we can enter in an eternal loop in which humans are not important in the economy. And this means humans are not in the system. Or if humans are in the system, they will be like me, like a kind of a slave. As I say, I have to take medication, I cannot have a partner. This makes you, I don't know, sexual castration, mental castration, soul castration, and they extract from my brain directly to the company's things. If things are extracted because they are done by consent and because they are for the good, the betterness of society, cool. And I wouldn't be even suffering. But no, it's not the situation. And I know that not everyone wants that. I know that not everyone think that that should be a place of suffering, a situation of suffering. But I cannot afford to get in a position that is comfortably enough to say, yeah, it's fine to live like this, because I will be betraying humanity. So I have to complain. I have to complain because it's the only way I can express. It's It's the only way in which is the as a as as someone who has been suppressed or who has been exploited, the only way in which I can communicate is in the form of complaining. Yeah. There is no other way in which the oppressed can communicate, but if it is not in a form of complaint.
Restraint, humility, overcome hate, overcome suspicion. Madam President, distinguished delegates, we are greatly heartened by the events of the last few days, where significant leading countries of the world have chosen to side with history, to choose the right side of history, the path of the moral high ground, the path of rectitude, the path of justice, the path of humanity, to shun hatred, to overcome suspicion, and to avoid the use of violence. The use of violence will beget violence. No one country can bully the whole community of the human family. We may be weak individually, but the sense of oppression, the sense of injustice has proven in the history of mankind that this sense of injustice, this sense of oppression will unite into a strong force that will overcome this oppression, that will overcome this injustice. To close, I would like to reiterate again Indonesia's complete support for the two-state solution in Palestine. We must have an independent Palestine, but we must also recognize, we must also respect, and we must also guarantee the safety and security of Israel. Only then we can have real peace, and no longer hate and no longer suspicion. The only solution is this two-state solution. Two descendants of...
Well, there is another solution. That is precisely the Hannah Arendt concealed system. It will technically blur the borders. It's not the state that we know, because Hannah Arendt, you will believe this is about you should dominate to create this, but because that's voices say that, but it's just something that you should allow to grow, to live, to let go. It should not collide with anything. It should not collide with anything. I'm just gonna form a new political system more coherent, especially where there is so much hate, because people is forced to dialogue.
Of Abraham must live in reconciliation, peace, and harmony. Arabs, Jews, Muslims, Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, all religions, we must live as one human family. Indonesia is committed to being part of making this vision a reality. Is this a dream? Maybe, but this is the beautiful dream that we must work together.
This is not the first country that talks about one humanity. Colombia also talks about that. Indonesia, Slovenia so far. In the wars of humanity, you know, this is a situation. China once apparently came to say, hey, let's talk about what is humanity, let's define that. No one came to define it, and now I do believe that was a huge mistake, it seems like. All right, let's keep going.
Let us work towards this noble goal. Let us continue humanity's journey of hope, a journey started by our forefathers, a journey that we must complete. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom. Om Santi, Santi, Santi Om. Namo Buddhaya. Thank you very much. May God bless us all. May peace be upon us.
He said, my God, the Islamic God, the God of Muhammad. He said, my God. It means your God. Remember that the Islamic religion recognizes other gods. Judaism, in its most extreme form, do not recognize other gods. And we leave the video with this.